Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Torah on Tap. We are in the middle of a series that is going to be dealing with the laws of Ben Adam Chavero. If you have your sheets, we are in the middle of, or we left off. The last source was number 16 in Dvarim. We're up to part B, Lo Tisna, do not reject, do not have hatred for your brother. So let's just go over what we spoke about. We spoke about in the first class about what is love, what does the Torah actually expect from us. We spoke about the month of Tammuz, and coming to the month of Tammuz is a time for, preparing the faculty of seeing, and that seeing becomes a source of judgment. And that judgment creates division. We don't see people objectively, and we see them through the lens of our upbringing, experiences, our insecurities, our own insanities, our biases. Before we can learn to love people, we have to correct this and see them properly. Then we spoke about last week, we spoke about the l'reacha, right? The grammatical issues over there. We spoke about the idea that the Torah obligates us to refuse to harm other people. We spoke about we have to have this desire for the well-being of the people around us and treat them the way we would treat ourselves. We said what is hateful unto you, do not do unto your fellow, and that is the whole entire Torah, and the rest is commentary. We spoke a little bit about the Chachamim and how they transform the principle into a concrete act of chesed, that it's not enough to go ahead and just, it's not just a feeling, but it's an action. We spoke about visiting the sick. We spoke about comforting the mourners. We spoke about welcoming guests. We said v'hatarecha kamocha is the way you walk in Hashem's ways, imitating His compassion, and fulfilling the Torah's call to do what is upright and good. That's v'asita hayashar v'hatov ve'enei Hashem l'man yitev lach. Right, so it should be good for you. And therefore, and then we ended with the world that we're in, how changing, how fast it is, that grand gestures often don't really do much, but it's a simple, small acts, the smile, the warm greeting, making another person feel noticed. We spoke about Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's story about him greeting a lonely widow each morning, and we saw how small acts of kindness can hopefully bring back some restored dignity to those people that have lost it. Today we're going to speak a little about Sinat Chinam and try to kind of get a better clarity of Lo tisna et achicha belavavcha hochech techiach et amitecha v'lo tisa alav chet. Okay, so Pasuk reads that you should not hate your brother in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your fellow and do not bear sin because of him. Okay, so how would we fulfill this mitzvah? What is this mitzvah exactly? How do I make sure that I don't hate my brother? And what does it mean? Hocheach tochiach et amitecha. You shall surely rebuke your fellow. How do I do that? How do I give someone a rebuke? Is that something I can do today? And lo tisa alav chet. If you don't do these things, it sounds like you're going to come to do some kind of sin. What does this mean? There's a beautiful, powerful Orach Chaim that explains this pasuk, and we're going to do it together. Okay? How do we know when we are no longer keeping this mitzvah? And let's see what the Orach Chaim says. He says, do not hate your brother, right? He says the meaning is, if something was caused by your brother that it gives you reason to hate him, do not hate him in your heart. Rather, with your mouth, speak rebuke to him for having caused such a thing. And this is the meaning of, and you shall surely rebuke. And as for do not bear sin because of him, the meaning is, do not conclude in your mind that what your brother caused, he did wickedly and still stands in his sin. Rather, judge him favorably and rebuke him. And through the rebuke, one of two things will result. Either he will give an explanation for what was done, and there is no sin, or he will regret what was done and resolve not to act this way. And behold, he is to you as a friend and a brother. Okay, so very clear. Over here, the Orach Chaim says that this pasuk has a very clear way of understanding it. Right. Number one is I can tell you personally, I'm going to celebrate my 28th anniversary in September. It's terrifying. I know. It's koach, which means power. That's 28, and it's going to be a powerful year. So it's going to be a lot of fighting. No, it's going to be a year of a lot of power. So when I first got married, my wife did things that bothered me, like she did things that I didn't like. And so I would often get upset because I'd imagine the reason why she did what she did. And all the reasons were really bad reasons. And then I would hold it in my heart, and I'd get frustrated. And then eventually, when you hold things in your heart, you kind of like lash out later. And like, what did I do? You know what you did. You know what you didn't do. Right? And you start fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. But like in reality, what the pasuk is saying is, no, you're not allowed to carry these feelings in your heart. What should you do instead? Number one is rebuke them. Rebuking doesn't mean like, oh, you suck, you're going to burn, I can't believe. No, rebuking over here means having the conversation. Hey, why did you do that? What were you thinking? And you'll find that most of the time, the person that you're judging for not doing or doing something that you think is bad, really the intention was not nefarious in any way at all. It was a complete misunderstanding. I would argue that 90%, maybe even 95% of the time, when we perceive things as someone else doing something against you, you ignore it, you don't say something, and you harbor all kinds of ill will towards that person, and then you're actually hating this person in your heart. So the Torah is saying the remedy is what? Speak it out with them. Talk to them. Or, and you could only do this, I think, in marriage. In marriage, you could totally give the benefit of the doubt. So I used to go through this meditation. I'm going to share it with you. This is private stuff. Okay? So I would say, like, Reuven, you're a really chashuv guy. You clearly married someone who's really chashuv. But she's doing something that's crazy. Right? Chashuv means important, right? No, not chashuv. No, chashuv. Yeah, chashuv. Lo chashud. Right? Chashuv. She's important, right? She's important. I'm important. She's important. Clearly, I married someone who's important. So if she's doing something that I think is crazy, it must be I'm not understanding her. So let me go inquire and figure out what she's doing wrong, or what am I misunderstanding, right? That is the meditation of someone in a marriage, right? You give the person the benefit of the doubt, have the conversation, don't carry the hatred in your heart, okay? And then go ahead, and the conversation will make sure that you don't go ahead and come to do any kind of sin at the end. Now, what does the word sinat chinam, what does the word sinam mean? So we often translate it as hatred, but let's look at the pasuk. Look at number 19. V'yira Hashem ki sanu'a le'ah. Le'ah was sanu'a, right? She was hated. V'yiftach et rachma v'rachel akara, right? The word over here, sanu'a, does not mean hated. What does the word sanu'a mean? Rejected. She was rejected. Sanu'a lo tisne achicha. Don't reject that person. Sinat chinam, we're going to say, is rejecting a person. Right? What is the word hate? V'yistom, look at the next one, 20. Esav et Yaakov. And he harbored hatred for his brother. Ala bracha asher baruch aviv, that the blessing that his father gave him. So the word sinu'ah over here means rejection, and the word vayistom means hatred. Vayistom. So no, okay, fine. So we understand what hatred is, and we understand what rejection is. How do we understand hochech tochiach, right? This concept of giving a rebuke. So look at the Yad HaKatana. The Yad HaKatana is not a typo. The Yad HaKatana is a 18th century commentary on the Rambam. It's a little pun on his sefer called the Yad HaChazaka. His is the strong hand, and this is the small hand. Small hand. I like it. It's cute. Anyway, so this is what he says. He says, Sinat left in the heart can intensify into sitma, deep-seated animosity. All right, even bloodshed. English. The Yad HaKatana warns that sin'ah, if left in the heart, intensifies until it can grow into sitma, a deep-seated animosity that mounts continually and can lead even to bloodshed, as Esav and Yaakov. But when a person voices his grievances, ready? When a person voices his grievances and brings it into the open, the fire of hatred is extinguished from the heart, and this is why the Torah pairs lo tisna with the command to give tochacha, right? So the Yad HaKatana this is a brilliant, observation. The reason why we end up hating people is because we don't talk to people anymore. We make assumptions, and as we keep assuming, we just keep building this hatred. Yeah.
Satum is blocked.
Yes.
So what does that
it also means blocked. It doesn't only mean blocked. The context of the pasuk, "V'yistom Esav et Yaakov," is a blockage which leads to a blind hatred, and therefore, you can't see like blind rage. It's probably what sinat chinam is. Like this is like it may know like he had a reason to hate him over here because he stole his blessings, but from it was this crazy hatred where he was ready to kill his own brother.
Does that tie back to stubbornness in any way?
Oh, I'm sure it definitely does not tie into humility. Yeah, it definitely ties into stubbornness. But it also comes from arrogance. Meaning, like, if we actually have the humility to kind of like speak to people and ask them, hey, you just did this. Why'd you do that? What were you thinking? And give them the opportunity to explain themselves, give them the benefit of the doubt. You'll be surprised again at how many times we misunderstand. I'll give you an example. I was in a car when I first got my Tesla. I was playing around. This is like 3 years ago, so it wasn't as good as it is today. Okay, it's been major improvements. Anyway, so I'm in my Tesla, and I'm crossing one of the Long Island Railroads, right, tracks, and the tracks are on the street. And before the tracks are all these white weird boxes, checkered boxes, to let you know that like this is the box before the turnstile comes down and you can't cross, when the train comes. So my Tesla did not like this. It didn't know what to do. So it gets to the stop sign and then sees these checkered boxes. It would like stutter. It was like freaking out, like just jittering. The guy behind me thought I was like playing games. He gets frustrated, honks his horn at me, and cuts me off. So what do? I'm like, you know what? I want to explain to this guy what just happened. Like he thinks I'm playing. So I have a Tesla. I'm faster than him, right? So I caught up to him and I pull up and I roll down my window and he rolls down his window and happens to be my neighbor. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's like, I didn't know that was you. I'm like, no, I wasn't coming to complain. I was coming to apologize. I just want you to know that like, it wasn't me. My car's in self-driving. I don't know what I'm doing yet. It doesn't understand how to read the road. I'm so sorry, right? So like, it just like, instead of him thinking like I'm some jerk playing around with him, I came to apologize, explain myself, and he explained whatever it is, and like it all worked out. But if I didn't say anything and he didn't say anything, then I would just think that my neighbor's just this jerk of a guy, like whatever it is, and it just creates more and more animosity for no reason, and then I'm guilty for causing this guy hatred, for this guy hating me in my heart. Okay, so let's see how the Ramban understands this concept of hocheach tochiach. Okay. Number 22. Do not hate your brother in your heart, because it is the way of those who hate to conceal their hatred in their hearts. Did you hear that? He says, the Ramban, that because it is the way of those who hate to conceal their hatred in their hearts. You know who's the greatest example of this? I'm going to use this today. The best example of this is our Mayor Mamdani. Right? It's clear that he hates Jews. Right? He was interviewed yesterday, and they said an interviewer, which was like a very weak interview, asked him about do you believe that Israel should be a Jewish state, right? And so he said something like, I believe that, I don't believe that any state should have a religion, right? That it's because then it's not equal to all, and I believe in equality. It's gaslighting, total gaslighting. First of all, Israel, do you know the official religion of the state of Israel is? Anyone know? There is no official religion for the state of Israel. How crazy is that? Maybe that's part of the problem. There is no official religion for the state of Israel. But just gaslighting. He's like, it's like Saudi Arabia. I have a problem with that also. No, he doesn't. Anyway, okay. So he's quoting from the Quran and telling people to use Islam as a system for taking in all kinds of migrants and whatnot, when in reality that whole entire system of migration was designed to usurp another country's power. Anyway, so he's gaslighting. He hates in his heart, because it is the way of those who hate to conceal their hatred in their hearts. The pasuk, the verse speaks of a usual case. You shall surely rebuke your fellow. Is a separate mitzvah to teach him moral rebuke and not to bear sin because of him. That guilt should be upon you when he sins and you do not rebuke him. But what is correct in my eyes is that you shall surely rebuke, is like Abraham rebuked Abimelech. And the verse is saying, do not hate your brother in your heart when he does something to you, something not to your liking, but rather rebuke him. Why did you do this to me? And why not bear sin and do not bear sin because of him by concealing your hatred in your heart? Simple reading, simple understanding, very beautiful. lo tisnat achicha b'lavavcha hocheach techiach means bringing out that negativity so you could clarify it and not carry any kind of grudge with him moving forward. The Rashbam, okay, this is the best. This is so important. Do not hate your brother in your heart. What does it mean? If he has dealt you wrong, do not appear before him as a friend while within him he sets in his ambush, which is not good. Do not hate him in your heart. Rather, rebuke him for what he did, and through that there will be peace. And do not bear sin because of him in your heart. Right? How many times do we go through situations? This happens often in the workplace, especially here at Safra. All the rabbis are always trying to no, I was joking. It doesn't happen here at all. But everybody here is so nice. I'm really lucky. Baruch Hashem. I'm very blessed to work with the most amazing people. But I've worked in environments where this is the reality. Oh, here comes this. I'm going to get him today in that staff meeting. I'm going to show this person this, and like you can bring it at. That's exactly what we don't want, right? You have someone who you have an issue with, confront them openly, find the kahunas to go out and talk to the guy or the girl, and just have an open conversation. Dialogue is everything. By the way, this is the foreshadowing a little bit of where sinat chinam and what it really means. Not even caring to have the conversation with the other person. Rambam, Sefer HaMitzvot, negative commandment 302, right? He says, in the 302nd negative commandment, forbids hating one another. In the words of the Sifra, the Torah spoke only of hatred kept in the heart. If a person reveals his dislike openly, and the others know of it, he does not transgress the particular prohibition. So, from a philosophical place, it's not an asur. If I tell you that I hate you, it's not bad, according to the Rambam. As long as I keep it in my heart, it's bad. But if I let you know of it, if I post about it and I tweet about it, it's okay, right? So he says, though he may transgress others, such as taking revenge or bearing a grudge, and positive mitzvah v'ahavta l'recha, the sin of lo tisna, specifically concealed hatred. Okay. I'm not saying you can go ahead and post it either, obviously, chas v'shalom, I'm being facetious over there. Rambam, Mishnah, Torah, and De'ot. Anyone who hates his fellow Jew in his heart transgresses a negative commandment, as it says, do not hate your brother in your heart. One is not lashed for this prohibition, since it involves no action. And the Torah warned only against hatred in the heart. But one who strikes his fellow or curses him, although he is not permitted to do so, does not transgress the prohibition of do not hate. Okay, so one more Rambam. Okay, let's just do this one. Mishnah, Torah, and De'ot. Did we do that one? No. When a person wrongs another, he should be not silently harbor hatred, as is said of the wicked. And Avshalom did not speak with Amnon, either evil or good, for Avshalom hated Amnon. Rather, it is a mitzvah upon him to inform him and say, why did you do such and such to me? And why did you wrong me in this manner? As it says, you shall surely rebuke your fellow. And if the other returns and asks him to forgive, he must forgive, and the one who forgives should not be cruel. Okay, so the halacha is ultimately, like in the Mishnah Brura, we go according to the approach of the Rambam. The prohibition of lo tisna, not hating, concerns the way we regard another Jew in our heart and our minds. So this is a cerebral, intellectual process of not hating a person. So we understand what sin'ah means, right? Sorry, lo tisna, right? But we did not explain lo tisna. What is the mitzvah of rejecting, and how does that apply today in our world? How do I reject another Jew? V'ahavta l'recha kamocha is the positive commandment to go ahead and do good to another person, not to do things that you don't want to be done to yourself. And this other mitzvah of not hating another Jew is literally in your heart of hearts. Have a conversation, relieve yourself of high blood pressure, have the conversation, don't bottle things up because it'll explode and it'll lead you to do all kinds of horrible things. All right. Is there anyone who we are meant to reject? Okay, so who do we reject? Let's see what the Gemara on Pasachim says. It's the case of Tuvia. Tuvia, he sinned, and Zigud came along and testified against him before Rav Papa, he had Zigud lashed. And Zigud said to him, Tuvia sinned and Zigud is lashed. He said to him, yeah, for it is written, a single witness shall not rise up against the man, and you testified against him alone. So you merely spread an evil name about him. But where there are witnesses that he committed a transgression, everyone too may hate him. So what is the difference about this one? Rather, it must be a case like this, where he himself saw him in a matter of immorality. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, it is a mitzvah to hate him, as it says, the fear of Hashem is to hate evil. So we're talking about there is a mitzvah to hate those things that are actually evil. So how does that work exactly? Who is this person? How do we hate this person? A Jew who knowingly and willfully transgressed was warned and did not stop, and he has not repeated. A Rasha is not a cartoon villain. He's someone who behaves badly, knows it, does not care, doesn't care about his conduct, and therefore the Torah permits us to reject him. Someone who's completely immoral or lost himself, you are permitted. Doesn't mean that you have to hate him, but you're allowed to go ahead and reject him. Okay, Rambam, Mishnah Torah, Halchos Rotzeach. I told you this is going to be technical. Okay. Yes, question?
Could you explain that one more time? So if there's only one person that you're not supposed to
Yeah.
be a witness.
Yeah.
More than
You need two witnesses to go ahead and testify against the person. If it's one person, it falls onto the rubric of Lashon Hara.
And then, but you're still allowed to hate him?
You could reject him.
You're allowed to reject him.
If you see him do something immoral, but you can't go ahead and testify against him.
So then the two witnesses need to know about each other.
The two witnesses need to know about each other. Yeah, it's actually a whole entire sugya about whether or not they're aware of each other, they have to know that they're there, are they seeing it, and so on and so forth. It's a whole interesting sugya about what they're actually witnessing and what they're testifying against. We could do a whole other conversation on Eidim and how it works. But yeah. Okay, anyway. Excusez-moi. Where are we up to? 29. Ki yiyeh riv ben anashim. All right, when there is a dispute between men, and they approach the court, and they judge them, and vindicate the righteous one and condemn the guilty one, harasha. It shall be, if the guilty one is to be flogged, which means whipped, the judge shall make him lie down and have him struck before him according to his wickedness by number. Okay, so that is the pasuk. How do we understand this pasuk? Rambam. Okay, and this he writes in his part of his 13 principles of faith. That as long as a Jew holds the 13 ikarim, we are commanded to love him. But even if he sins from ta'ava and desire, you gotta love him. So which is it? Do we love or reject? Okay. So the Rambam, he says, and when all these principles are firmly established for a person, and his faith in them is true, he enters into the category of Israel. And it is a mitzvah to love him and to have compassion on him and to act toward him in all the ways that Hashem commanded, one person regarding another, with love and brotherhood. Even if he has done whatever transgressions he could out of his desire and overpowering his evil inclination. So the Rambam says that at the end of the day, the sinner should be loved. Even if you have the right to go ahead and hate him, and this has been my work for so long, I actually struggle with religious Jews who judge non-religious Jews and tell them that they're going to burn in hell and that kind of stuff. I hate that stuff. We have to accept every Jew. And the reason why we accept every Jew, I really believe, isn't just because, it's only Jewish. It's because we use our community as a springboard to open ourselves up to the love of all of humanity. If I can't love the people that are closest to me, I certainly can't love people a little further away. It's not meant to stop there. It's just the beginning point of opening your heart up to loving humanity. Okay, so now, we have this, seems like a little bit of a discrepancy between the Rambam above and the Rambam over here. Okay, so the pasuk in Shemot says, Ki tireh chamor, right? When you see your donkey, san'echa rovetz tachat ma'asav, and you see a donkey of one that you hate, he's sanecha, lying under its burden, right? Right? Lying under his burden, and you would refrain from helping him, you shall surely help him. You see a guy that you don't like, he said something, he did something that bothers you. You see him struggling with his donkey, and you're like, oh good, he's just like his donkey. He's struggling, let him struggle away. Right? No. You see that, you have a mitzvah to get up and help the person that is struggling right there. Okay? When the animal of the one you reject is collapsing, you have to unload the animal And this is exactly what the Gemara tells. Even before helping your friend, in order to subdue, you start with something that is small and easy to help overcome your Yetzer Hara, and you'll be fine. Help the stone to break the Yetzer Hara, right? Come and hear, friend, to unload, and one you reject to unload, to load. The mitzvah is with the one you reject, in order to subdue your inclination. And if it should enter your mind that the suffering of an animal is a Torah concern, it's not the other preferable. Even so, subduing your inclination is preferable. Meaning, whatever I can do to get someone, if I see someone who's struggling with his donkey, I tell them the mitzvah is to help the donkey first. Not because that's the ideal. It's because if I'm going to figure out a way of getting you to overcome your own inclination, okay, your own Yetzer Hara, do what is easy first. By the way, this is the Torah's way of saying that if you're struggling with a particular mitzvah, don't jump all in. Find the easiest route to do the easiest part of that mitzvah first and build off of that. Find a keystone habit that allows you to build on that mitzvah so it could grow. Don't do all of it at once. Pick that one thing and then eventually you'll get there. Now, Tosfot is going to ask what we believe is the obvious question. If the mitzvah is to reject the man, what yetzer is there to subdue? Meaning, if he's a guy that you're allowed to hate, the only guy you're allowed to hate is someone who's immoral. We established that the word sin'ah is used when there's someone who's wicked, an immoral person. So we're clearly talking about someone who's immoral. If I'm allowed to hate the guy, then what Yetzer Hara am I rejecting? What am I subduing? Okay, look at Tosfot says, right? Who saw him in a matter of immorality. And if you ask, in Eli Mitziot, we say that a friend to unload and one you reject to load. The mitzvah is the one you reject in order to subdue your inclination. And now, what subduing of the inclination applies? Since it's a mitzvah to hate him. One may answer, since he hates him, his fellow also hates him back, as it is written, as waters reflects kamayim panim, right? Kamayim panim, right? Face, right? Waters reflects face to face. So to the heart of one person to another, right? Kach lev adam le'adam. And through this they come to a total hatred, and the subduing of the inclination applies. So, meaning, we understand that if you're hating somebody, they're hating you back. So at the very least, figure out a way of unburdening the hatred. Someone's got to break the cycle. If there's no breakage of the cycle just becomes a violent. This is why it's so frustrating with, what's happening in Israel, and unfortunately the Palestinians, they've taken on a philosophy of just utter hatred. They hate you in your heart. And we saw this, by the way. I was there right after October 7th. And we were in I forgot the name of the city we were in. We were not too far from Arad. There was a commander that I met there from one of the tank brigades who said that on October 7th, was a Sunday, on October 5th, he had these Arab workers from Gaza that were doing cement work in his house. And they told him on Friday, they're not going to see him on Sunday. And each one gave like some cockamamie, I'm going to the dentist. He thought it was weird. You didn't like make anything of it. But they knew, everyone knew in Gaza what was happening on that Sunday. It wasn't a surprise, let's just wake up. They knew this in advance. These guys are literally doing in this guy's house, cementing his house with his children and family. And they're thinking in their heart about how they're going to come and kill Jews the next day. Right? If they would have the conversation, why do you hate me? I didn't do anything. Like, what are you doing with my kids? Why are you even considering raping and murdering and killing people? Why would you do that? Why would you microwave a baby? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you thinking in your head? So sometimes the way you get people out of their head is by having a conversation. Hatred creates more hatred. It's a cycle of violence that never, ever ends. Rav Kook takes this principle and he does something beautiful with it. Look what he says. He's wrote this in the Sefer Orot. He says that Rav Kook states the principle exactly. Even towards one who sins, even a rasha, the Torah never released us from the mitzvah of ahav l'reacha. What one is permitted to reject is only the sin, never the person. Reject the deed, love the doer. Love that. Right? It's true that we can hate what someone does and say, that act is immoral. He's acting immorally. But we hate the action, the act, not the person. We can make a separation because that person is lost in his own rishut. He's lost in his own head of insanity. He's gone crazy. Balatanya. Okay? Even those close to him, whom he has rebuked, and who have not repented for their sins, whom it is a mitzvah to hate, it is also a mitzvah to love them. And both are true. Hatred from the side of the evil within them, and the love from the side of the hidden good within them, which is the spark of the divine within them that animates their godly soul. Powerful. On the one hand, there's this idea of there's a duality. Like, can you love and hate someone at the same time? And the answer is yes, you can. I love to hate you. No, I have this duality where I could recognize that in the person, that even in the negative person, there's something valuable and good there. And if you can't value the good in a person, then you're just insane. You're just like a rabid hater. Like so many anti-Semites, they self-destruct because their hate is so vitriolic that no one can take them seriously. You can't apply it to everybody. There are plenty of good people out there that are doing great things, even in camps that are really messed up. Okay, this is the Emek Hadavar, Netziv, number 36. And the matter is explained in the Song of Hazinu, in the verse, and the rock, his work, is perfect. Hatzur Tamim Poalo. Righteous and upright is he. The praise of upright is stated to justify the judgment of the Holy One, right? In the destruction of the Second Temple, which was a crooked and twisted generation, we explained that they were righteous and pious and toiled in Torah, but they were not upright in their dealings with the world. Therefore, because of this baseless hatred in their hearts, they suspected anyone they saw conducting himself in the fear of heaven differently from their own view of being a Sadducee or a heretic. And they came through this to bloodshed by way of escalation and to all the evils in the world until the temple was destroyed. How crazy is that? Everyone had, you don't see the world the way it is, you see it the way you are. The thing that people champion the most are the things they themselves are struggling with, right? So what he's saying, that Netziv, which is again very deep idea, what was the basis of hatred? They recognized that they themselves their minds were twisted. Since they saw themselves as being twisted, they saw everyone around them as being twisted, they harbored the hatred, and that hatred eventually led to civil war. Let's kill everybody. We can have a conversation with the democratic socialists of America as long as they can be honest and open about what their real intentions are. Right? Someone's got to be honest. You got to have the dialogue. It doesn't have to go to hatred. Right? It doesn't always have to be the gaslighting and the craziness and so on and so forth. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced yet. I don't believe Mamdani loves Jews. Unfortunately, I can't say that. I don't see that. I want to believe that he does. That he doesn't, but I don't see that. I don't see if he would have come to the Israeli parade, I would have thought a little bit different. But once he didn't come to the parade, once he couldn't do that already, I knew exactly where his heart is. Right? It's the same thing. Too many children in Gaza are dying, which I think is horrible. You told us when you were running for mayor that you're going to be the mayor of New York. Why is your platform always by Gaza? Make up your mind. You're just a gaslighter. Anyway, and you're a liar. All right. Anyway, I'm going to tag you on this video. Hopefully you'll watch it. Maybe you'll learn a little bit about Lo tisna achicha ve'levavcha. Okay. Chazon Ish. Okay. Chazon Ish, he says that he's citing the this is Hagot Maimonit and the Ahavat Chesed, rules that one may reject another Jew unless that person has first received proper tochacha and persisted. Since in our generation we no longer know how to give tochacha that a person could truly receive, there is effectively no one we may treat as a rasha. Perhaps we would have repented had we known how to rebuke him. We are no longer in a position to give anyone tochacha. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. They say they still tell these amazing stories of the Chazon Ish. There was a man who opened up his store on Shabbat, and the Chazon Ish found out about it, and he came to the Chazon Ish. He came to the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim came to the store owner and said, "I heard you're open on Shabbat." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "Money." He's like, "No." So you can't be open on Shabbat. He's like, "No, I have no problem to feed my family." He's like, "No, understand." He's like, "You can't be open on Shabbat. It's Shabbat." And he kept saying it over and over again until the Chofetz Chaim started crying. That's all he said. Shabbat. He started tears in his eyes. And the store owner was so moved by the Chafetz Chaim's passion, he started keeping Shabbat. He was so moved by that. It wasn't, oh, you're going to burn in hell, you're going to lose all your money. Yeah, it wasn't like that at all. It was coming from the most deepest, beautiful place, a sincere love for the person and the mitzvah, and that inspired him. It inspired him. Rav Kook, he says that the mitzvah of sinat toward a wrongdoer is a practical halacha, inapplicable in our generation. Like the laws of the rebellious son and the condemned city, it stands as theory from which we were meant to learn the importance of holding firm to our values while never judging another person. Right? We can't go ahead and kill the wayward son. Right? We can't do it. It's asur. Right? We have these halachot to teach us about holding on to our values. Meshech Chochmah and Dvarim. The Meshech Chochmah writes that only a person who is himself wholly free of sin and entirely upright in all of his ways could ever be fit to fulfill these laws of sinah toward others. Who can find such a person today? Which means even Meshech Chochmah said, we don't have anyone to do this today. The Chazak Chaim is probably one of the last few people in the last 120 years who were able to do it. We no longer have the ability to do it because we're all guilty. How can I judge somebody else? It's so beautiful. Okay, so first, let's go through the summary. Right, you have the summary there? The mitzvah of ahava is not an emotional love for an individual, but an obligation not to treat any other Jew in a way we would not want for ourselves, with a rabbinic layer that turns it into a proactive chesed. Number 2, lo tisna forbids rejection. I may not push another Jew out of the family and cease to see him as a brother. Disagreement is permitted, as with any sibling. Rejection is not. Third, while the Gemara permits a measured, righteous rejection of a rasha's conduct, such a person scarcely exists today because we cannot give proper tochacha. We may therefore reject neither the person nor in practice, even the deed. We may hold firm values about right and wrong, but we may no longer project them onto people and leave them feeling judged. I just spoke at my wife was running this program for girls from across the country called Jane Internships. These are non-observant girls who are learning about their Judaism and getting these internships. So I spoke to them last Tuesday, and I said, I gave my shtick about, Judaism is designed for, peak performers that want to live a life of excellence. So someone said to me, are you saying that I need to become Orthodox to live a life of excellence? I'm like, I never said that. Are you saying that if I don't keep Shabbat, I'm going to burn in hell? I never, ever said that. But what was happening is that because I created a vision of growth in their Judaism, they automatically started responding with all their own personal hang-ups and using that as a way to push back. And I never said that, And I kind of went through with them. I was there with them for 3 hours, walking them through it in the most lovingly patient way that I possibly could, kind of impart it over to them. No judgment at all. And I think they heard it. But it takes a long time to show someone that you really care. It takes a long time to have a message that is, Rav Orluk, he said this to us. He said, if you're going in and you're meeting with another Jew and you have an intention, a vision for what they should or should not be doing, he's like, you failed them already. If I come in as a rabbi and say, my job is to make everyone like me, I failed you as a person. It means I'm not seeing you for who you are. And that message was like so ingrained in my heart and soul. Like, I don't judge people for who they are, what they do, what they don't do. That's not my job. My job is to try to entertain, edutain, and explain, and kind of provide information and guidance for as much as I can. But I'm not here to tell you who to be. You're on your own journey. I respect that. And therefore, my job is to try to share, motivate, and inspire you to figure out how to move forward. Because if you're not moving forward, you're not growing. You're not growing, you're moving backward. And that's true for anyone in any part of their lives, whether it's religious or not. You can't remain apathetic. Apathy is abdication. Abdication is a form of surrendering. Surrendering is a form of losing and giving up. I don't no retreat, no surrender. We don't give up ever. To be a Jew means I never give up. It doesn't matter how many times I failed. It doesn't matter. It means I never give up my dreams. There's a story where I'll end with this. There's a story where someone went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and said, I spoke to one doctor and he told me that, I need to have this surgery, I take all these medications, and so then I went to this other doctor and said not to worry about it. Which one should I listen to? So he says, when it comes to practical things, do exactly what the pessimistic doctor said to do. Go through the surgery, take the medication, do what you got to do. But when it comes to hope, always accept the advice of the positive doctor. Never give up on doing your hishtadlut, but we also never give up on our dreams and being hopeful. B'ezrat Hashem, we should have the clarity of mind to accept every single Jew, b'ahava, without sin'ah, without rejection, finding a place for us to love them. How do we begin to love them? By going out and doing chesed for them, do something for people, feel a connection to it. This is not only true for people. If you have a mitzvah that you don't like, you want a connection to it, do something for it. Build a process where you're creating. You have something you hate, right? Don't start and just make shalom automatically. Start finding a small way, a ramp, an off-ramp that helps you get to a place where you can build that relationship up again and get the connection. B'ezrat Hashem, with our desire and ability to remove sinah in our hearts, we'll have the merit of seeing and bringing Mashiach. Have a great night, everybody.